relationships are cool and all, and it's good to be able to have them, but there's so many other attributes that you have to like, that I wish I had too. Does that make sense? I'm really good at this. So if you can take what I'm really good at, and then you can maybe take some of the stuff that you learn from someone else and what they're really good at, and you can tailor that to become a better person or individual yourself, and it makes you better listening to the TMRW Podcast. There's been some life events that I feel like I could just probably share that would be impactful on the listeners enough to be like, dude, that makes a ton of sense. I'm going to try to be more like that.
So, guys, look, here we are. Welcome back to TMRW Podcast. Donnie McGinnis. I'm Kevin Robinson. Special guest, Jeremy Hammond. Jeremy,
my boys. I'm with my boys today.
It's like being home, man. Thank you for being here, brother. Dude, we were just talking about it. I mean, I've known you personally for about 7 years. I've been in the industry a lifetime, but you've been in, I mean, shoot, you're one of the godfathers. How long have you been in?
2004.
Since 04?
So
I think I was born that year.
No. I was going to say, Donnie came out the womb circa 03. I was going to say, shoot. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, the gray shows, baby.
Showing on us all, dude.
Now.
That's what happens. You get old and you start podcasting, man. You get gray and you get in the podcast, and that's why we're here. I was actually beforehand, I was like, I didn't want to start this podcast by saying like, yo, I want to talk about relationships and make it like a classroom. That's so stupid and I hate it. And it's like there's a million podcasts out there and I don't want to be white noise.
Yeah.
But, we were talking about it beforehand, getting your perspective on how you create longevity in this industry, man. You've been in it for 20 years. And again, I've known you a long time. I don't believe I've ever met a guy that speaks bad of the Hammonds, in particular, Jeremy Hammond. So
appreciate
let's talk about that. Jer, how 20 years ago, how'd you get in?
You know what? My older brother, the oldest of 7 siblings, Mike, still a partner in most businesses that I'm in. He roped me in. So
yep.
He was one of the most talented sales guys in the industry, and he had just come off a summer and crushed it. He brought me into it, and from there, like, honestly, a little bit of luck, a little bit of good people in my life, and 20 years later, you touched on it. I think that fostering long-lasting relationships, piece by piece, when we came into this, it was just us. But we've added little pieces along the way, and to the point now where, Donnie, you hear me talk about this now when I say your network equals your net worth. And I have found that to be true in the sense of, by fostering a good network, I can do a lot of things just because of who I know and the people that trust me, and not necessarily what I bring to the relationship. What I bring to the relationship, is the trust. And then with that, good people can do amazing things. And I think I've been blessed with really good people in my life.
It's one of the things that I recognize every time I'm in the office. I see
there's people lined outside his door wanting to meet with Jeremy.
Of people trying to figure out like, yo, how can I get into business in one way, shape, or form with Jeremy? You've built tons of them over the last 20 years. Before we breeze over it though, what did you and Mike sell? What were you guys selling the first thing you were selling?
First thing we got into was Dish. And
okay, so that was inception. Mm-hmm. Dish was it.
20 years later,
still selling satellite TV.
Hey, shoot, hey, golly, man.
Still the largest one out there. So.
I was gonna say, dude, if the road wasn't paved, my goodness, none of us would have a chance. But that's a 20-year relationship.
In 2024,
nuts,
we'd be putting up 35,000.
I think it always
is crazy.
Blows people's mind when you tell them that you're selling that many accounts in satellite TV.
It's nuts.
It is crazy. But look, for anybody trying to get into it, it's going away next year. So, dude, don't get out of bed for it.
Stay away.
Yeah. Don't get out of bed for it.
Well, best kept secret. And I think it's a testament that if you build a business the right way, it can last the test of time. And then even as most dealers have dwindled in that industry, our guys are still crushing, which is, it's cool to see.
So a little bit, and not I guess, I mean, we can kind of round into it there, but Jer, 20-year relationships, tons of moving parts with that. So obviously you've got your fixed relationships, the guys with Dish Network, and you've been, building that relationship for years. But to build an organization that can continue to run on that particular product means that all of your downward relationships have to be super intact, and they are. To be able to continue to create that kind of volume with what they call a dying product means that the leadership up top is super sound and super key. So I guess maybe let's start at the beginning, man. Where do you believe that your ability to create those kind of strong foundations and relationships, like where did that come from? I mean, yeah,
so
talk to us about maybe,
especially for the viewers, I think it's important for you guys to know that while I've been successful with relationships in business, I haven't been successful with all of my relationships in life. I'm learning that still. There's a lot of relationships that I've got to figure out and I've got to continue to develop. But in business, I've learned really it goes back to how to win friends and influence people. Like, people care about themselves and how they feel, and they're living life for themselves. And it doesn't matter. What I've realized is it doesn't matter if it's the rookie coming in or if it's the executive at the top. Everybody has feelings, and everybody wants to feel important in different ways. And so just thinking about it coming in, because you had told me that you wanted to talk a little bit about relationships, I was thinking about, like, where did I have this knack? And I think one of the things that, if you know me, you'll know is I'm hypersensitive in the room to how people are feeling or what's going on in their lives. And
which is a huge asset that you have, Jer.
It's a blessing and it's a curse.
For sure.
But I'm thinking about, like, what are you thinking when I walk in the room, or what's going on in your life? I know, for example, Donnie's kids weren't feeling too good this weekend, and that he had a rough weekend. He had to give up doing some things. So
Yep.
Monday comes around, I'm checking on my boy Donnie. I'm making sure he's doing good. I'm making sure that his family's good. He hit 2 grand slams last night. So today I know he's feeling pretty arrogant.
Back on top.
So now we can bring him back down to reality.
I was going to say, that
You ain't that cool, though.
made KSL news the way Donnie told me.
Yeah.
I was,
Down 8 runs. Last
Oh, man. 2 grand. That's right. You're getting recruited all over the valley.
And just different things. Like, I know a lot about your personal life. I know that you and your wife, like, are totally into traveling. I know that you're totally into your dogs, and
That's true.
I know just different things about you, so that when I'm with you, I know what's important to you, and I know how to actually, in a way, like, motivate you or say, hey, like, let's set this relationship up for your success too.
Jeremy, it's telling, and that resonates, man. And look, I think if you were to ask your dad, or if I were to go and ask my dad, it's like, yo, what was it like in a business setting back in, like, the 70s, right? The way it was is that a dude would come in, he'd bark his ass off, he'd slam his hand on the table, he'd make sure that people were either afraid of him enough to move quickly or understood that they were going to lose their position. And, that's not how people operate today. It's just that's not how people tick. And I think, Jeremy, you get that more than most.
Yeah.
I think from that too, though, like, the thing that what you're explaining right now, Jeremy, is you listen and you understand, which I think a lot of people don't do that. Like, even myself, like, I'll be in a conversation, I just meet someone. It's sometimes hard to listen because you have all these distractions. But what you just said to me is, you know what is going on in my life, you know what Kevin likes, and you're a good listener. And that's how you've set the tone in these relationships, is because you've developed a sense of, like, you actually care because you want to build that relationship, so you're listening.
So
which
I
is
feel
massive.
like what it comes back to, and there's 3 things, and I can kind of share, because as I thought about this, there's really 3 things in my life that feel like have set me up for success. And what that comes back to is I do, like, love people. I feel like I understand that there's way more. Anyone that knows me knows that I do not value money more than I value a relationship.
Right.
And I never go and do anything thinking, what can I get out of this that's going to benefit me financially? I always go into a relationship thinking, okay, how can I develop this relationship and make it more long lasting? And I think the 3 things that have helped me in business, one is I always say to the younger generation, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And I've seen that with my own kids, and my kids are amazing. But I did see challenges with like, even my oldest went through this time period where her friends just weren't the type of friends that I wanted her to have. And sure enough, like, she struggled. And in business, I say it a little bit differently. Your network becomes your net worth, but it really comes down to who are you surrounding yourself with. And there's a couple impactful things in my life, but starting with number one thing that I think set me apart that I'm going to share because it's a story that will resonate, but had such a powerful impact in my life is going into my senior year. I grew up in a small town, Rexburg, Idaho. At the time, it was like 15,000 people, and everybody knew everybody. My neighbor across the street was the chief of police, Captain Archibald is what we called him.
Small place.
We called him. It's what he was, Captain Archibald. And I had taken this path my junior year to hang out with some seniors that were older, but were a little more crazy. And Captain Archibald kept telling me, he's like, hey, you need to change your friends, dude. You're going to find yourself in trouble. You're going to be visiting me if you don't figure out a new group of friends to hang out with. And I pushed it to the side. And I didn't think much about it, but senior year, going into my senior year, I was old for my grade. I was 18 already, homecoming. I had just started dating my now wife, Robin. I was hanging out with the friends that had just graduated. They came to the game, and then I had my senior friends, and my senior friends were more of the jock athletes, but making a little bit better decisions in their life at the time. I think sports keeps people pretty busy and out of trouble, and they were I had these two groups of friends where I come to the game with the seniors. I wasn't playing football at the time, and I ended up getting in a fight. And the kid that I got in a fight with was 17, and he said some things to me that
got your fur up. Got your fur up, yeah.
And I punched him in the mouth, and it ended up knocking out his 4 front teeth and then bent over his bottom teeth.
Wow. Okay.
And I took off, and at the time, you're a senior in high school. I'm like, yeah, don't mess with me.
Right. But that's a big deal. That's 4 teeth. That's a serious thing.
It's a serious thing.
Yeah.
You get to school on Monday. I get the snar. I'm sitting in shop class.
Yeah.
We're dissecting a pig, and 3 cops walk in, and KT, another friend and neighbor, was my science teacher, was, Jeremy, you got some visitors. And I went up, and they asked about the fight. They asked about my age, and they realized I was 18, and they're like, hey, hands behind your back.
Oh, wow.
Like,
did you run?
Well, the reason why this was impactful is they took me back to the jail, and they put me in a holding cell, and they had me handcuffed to a wall, and Captain Archibald comes in, and I didn't realize at the time that he was basically saving my life, but he was scaring the living shit out of me.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, hey, dude, I told you, I warned you, hanging out with friends, that this is what it would be. And he had me start making calls to figure out how I was going to finish high school from jail. And he's like, dude, he's missing body parts. Like, you're going to be in here for 11 years minimum. I didn't realize at the time he was like,
put the fear of God in you.
Putting the fear of God.
Yeah.
Scared the living shit out of me.
Oh, absolutely.
I went from being like, don't mess with Jeremy, to crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
And he had me sitting there all day, and he finally came out at night. I went in the morning, and he came in at like 9 o'clock at night. He's like, I think I got you a deal, but you're going to have to do 3 things. And I'm like, whatever those 3 things are.
Yeah, name them.
I'm all in.
I'm your genie. Yeah, name them. Yeah.
And the first thing he said is, you got to change your friends. You can no longer hang out with those dudes if I'm going to get you out of here. So I'm like, they're dead to me.
Done. Yeah, done.
No, I actually was like, hey, like, done deal. And then he's like, your grades got to be A average and then community service. And I took that, but really what I went and did is I started surrounding myself with better friends, which 100% led me down a path that from destruction to setting myself up for the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's very powerful because I've taken that into business, and I've realized business is the exact same thing. You surround yourself with the wrong people, the wrong moral characters, the type of people that you don't want to be like, you will get very similar results, and it'll lead you and your personal life to either financial destruction or personal. And that was probably lesson number 1 to me. The second thing that I think is very impactful is I was raised by awesome parents. My dad is, salt of the earth. My friends, my business partners, people that know him just love him today. And I watched him serve regardless of what people had or their status. He would serve diligently, take his shirt off the back for anyone that he could. And when you look at like where that impact came from, we grew up with my mom's parents. Her dad died young, and so her mom was a widow for 25 years. And she, I think, had a massive impact on my entire family, not just me. But we spent a lot of time with her. She was 4'11", 90 pounds. And when you get older and you have the chance to go to a lot of funerals, if someone dies young, it's usually a pretty big impact. Like the funeral will be just massive.
Yep.
And if you die super old, usually the funeral is a couple hundred people, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, my grandma died at 90, and she was one of those that died at 90, but had like the whole stake center like overflowing. And I'm like, wow, this lady left such an impact on people's lives. But she had a massive impact on me, and this is where I think a lot of how I treat people comes from. And I can tell you in a story the best way that she looked at life and what she taught us and how she taught us to react with things, because I now in business react a lot of ways that she taught me how to react. And I think the best way to describe that is there were 7 siblings, 7 kids.
Okay.
6 siblings.
Where do you fall?
I was second from the oldest.
You're second from the okay. So okay, yep.
So fast forward now, I'm married to Robin, my high school sweetheart, and the 4th child in our family had at the time been struggling with some addiction issues.
Okay,
and it was throwing our family for quite a loop. We didn't know really how to like handle it. I had been married for a few years. My oldest brother, Mike, had just gotten married, and we had I think we each had a couple of our youngest kids when we were dealing with it. And my dad goes, we come up for either Thanksgiving or Christmas, a holiday. My dad gives this awesome talk in church, and it was about strengthening the family. And the bishop gets up. Back then, our church was 3 hours, and he's like, hey, the next 2 hours are canceled. I want you guys to go home with your families and talk about how you can strengthen them. So we go to my little grandma's house. That's where we all met. And there was all of the siblings were in town. And we all meet, but Ryan wasn't there. Ryan was actually living down by the river in a tent trying to figure out how to deal with life.
Oh, wow.
And
so that's
it was
radical.
It was radical,
very, very much dealing with the. Okay. Put some perspective.
We're all there talking about Ryan. My sisters were bawling, and we were all talking about Ryan, and we were like, how are we going to help Ryan? And there was a lot of conversations going back and forth, and some of it heated, some of it not, on like opinions on how we can help Ryan. And in walks this 4'11", 90-pound woman with the loudest voice in the room, and she's like, stop. And we're like, silence. And she's like, you guys all judge Ryan, but all Ryan needs is to feel loved. He's like, quit judging him and just love him for who he is. Love him unconditionally for his weaknesses, love him for his strengths. If you love him enough, this will get resolved. Ryan walks through the door 10 minutes later. Whole family like jumps around him, hugs on him, loves him. He's like, I'm done. I'm ready to get help.
Wow.
Hasn't looked back. Phenomenal father, phenomenal brother, phenomenal. It's just it's now just a stint in his life, but it was serious at the time. And I think that what my grandmother taught me that day is that love can heal a lot. And in fact, I talk about this a lot.
Wow, that's incredible, brother. That's incredible.
It's
man.
Cool.
Yeah.
She had this saying in her bathroom, and it said, no matter how deeply seated your troubles or how lost you might feel, there is no difficulty that enough love cannot conquer, no door that enough love cannot open, no disease that enough love cannot cure.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always just remembered that. And I think I lead, if you know me, and I think you would agree with this, I lead with love a lot.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely do love my people. I love the people that I get to meet and that I have the privilege to work with. And so I try to lead with love a lot. And then finally, the third thing is, as I got good in business, I realized that these relationships can actually benefit me a lot, and that by loving people, they also trust you, and they want to feel loved, and they want to be around you, and they want to do more business with you. And it all comes down to people genuinely want to feel loved. But the third mistake that I made that I think I'm working on now, it's like this phase, is my relationships in business, I prioritize them more than the most important relationships in my life.
Yeah. That's a thing, man. That's a thing with guys that work as much as, as we do, as you do in particular, and, achieving those kind of levels of success. Yeah, man, there's a massive sacrifice. All too often, the most people we love the most, they take the hit. I know what you're talking about for sure. Elaborate on that, man. Tell us your
success. I think success can get to you a little bit. I think the arrogance of being good at business can get to you a little bit.
Yep.
And you kind of feel like, hey, I can conquer this life.
Yep.
But the reality of it is, okay, go watch any episode of Alone. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'd do well in that.
Without fail, there's been 11 seasons, and we watch it. Without fail, every single contestant almost says,
oh, yeah.
Once they're alone and once they're isolated, they want their family.
They just want company.
That's all they want.
Yeah, they want their family.
They want their family.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's the number one driving thing that drives them home every single time is their family. Well,
by the way, I would struggle on that. I hate being alone. I hate it.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
My kids asked me last night, they're like, how long would you last? I'm like, the second I saw a grizzly bear track.
Oh, shoot. No doubt, man.
I'm not doing that. Yeah.
I'm not built for it either.
Anyway, so most recently, like a few years ago, my relationships in business were good, but I almost lost the most important relationship to me, which was my wife. And it was definitely something that I did not prioritize, and I did not give the same effort to that relationship that I was giving to some of my business relationships. And when all the noise goes away and you're sitting there really contemplating your life, like the same exact thing to me, the way that I felt was the same way that those contestants feel on Alone. It's like, man, I don't want to do any of this without my family.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And the transition that I have made, and because I'm trying to also have a better relationship with God and the spiritual side of me, the thing that I believe is, I do believe there's a higher power. I do believe there's a God, and I do believe that families can be together forever. That's something that I believe personally. And so when you think about what families mean together forever, my kids are going to have families. Their kids are going to have families. So it really means, to me, you and your spouse together forever is what it's going to come down to. And you'll have to be surrounded by your kids and their families and all that, but it really comes down to you and your spouse.
Yeah, it starts at the top.
And I used to look at our relationship way more selfish. Even though I had great relationships, I took her for granted for the amazing woman that she is, and I almost lost her. And so I'm now realizing I'm good at relationships, but not all relationships. I'm good at some things, I'm bad at other things, and I almost botched the most important relationship of all, which is my wife. And she's an amazing woman that I'm like so lucky to have. But I look at that relationship way different. I'm now the guy, you can make fun of me all you want, I'm going to lunch with her 3 to 5 times a week.
I love that.
It's incredible, Jer. You've probably heard this story or something similar, but it's exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask kind of what steps you're maybe taking to change, a little bit of that, keeping your business relationship strong, but at the same time making sure that the ones that are most important, resounding, lasting, stay intact. I heard this story, man. This guy, he's out fishing a boat. He just lives off an island somewhere. He's out fishing his boat. He's got his 2 boys with him, right? He's teaching them how to fish. And there's this guy. He's a tourist businessman. He looks at this dude and he's like, "Yo, dude's got an operation, man. They just pulled a bunch of fish out of the river or out of the ocean." So he ups to the guy and he says, "Hey, what would your thoughts be on like teaching a bunch of dudes how to do this, and we get like 12, 15 boats and build a thing here, like make some money and crush it. At the end, we'll sell them all." And the guy's like, "Yeah, but why would I do that?" And he goes, "What do you mean? You become rich?" And he goes, "Yeah, but like for what purpose?" He goes, "So you retire and spend all your time with your family." And he's like, "That's all I do now.
Yeah,
I fish with my boys every day." And so it's like one of those things you have to recognize, and I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying don't go get it. I'm saying to kind of recognize what's important, you know what I mean? And what relationships
have a healthy balance too.
Need the most attention, right? Yeah. Maybe taking a phone call at 10 o'clock at night when you're watching a movie with your old lady isn't as important as it used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
so what are you doing?
A young entrepreneur that came from no money. Money was a big motivating factor to just get at least financially successful.
Yep.
It's not. I don't put it before anything, but it is still something I wanted to like have financial freedom. I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I think doing the right thing with the right people brings me way more satisfaction now because I've had success than the success once brought me. And so now I don't know if it's a phase in my life or if it's just maturity within my relationship personally. But I really don't care if everything else fails, as long as the one thing that matters most stands. And what I've noticed is, as I prioritize that, and I still have to remind myself days to like make things important, and I'm trying to be better and better, but as I prioritize that relationship, and that relationship has gotten stronger, it's crazy how the kids, my oldest and my second oldest and the twins, how we have become even more gelled and meshed as a family.
More of a unit.
Because they feel like, okay, dad's work is no longer a priority over us. Like, we are
Love that, man.
the priority.
Love that.
And I don't know.
I think that's awesome. That's so cool to hear. Especially, I'm younger.
Yeah.
I mean, I have younger kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. And I've taken that to where work is everything. I mean, I'm up early, I'm out late. Like,
you get
everything I can to provide the best life I can for my wife and my kids. But like, I know, like, for instance, today was Quincy's first dance day, which is so cute. I can't even believe it. I have to. But like, I made sure that I blocked that out of my schedule, because that's only going to happen once in her life. I have to make that a priority. If I don't, I'm losing as a father. Other people might not think that, like in business, but for me, I'm losing as a father if I'm not making that a priority. Now, I'm not saying give up work every single day to go to do certain things with my kids.
Totally.
No, that would be awesome one day. But like those little things, you have to make that a priority, because it means everything to them, because they're the most important relationship.
And you just have relationships, you should still prioritize those relationships. You can maybe go a little bit harder than the family man, but I still think, like, back to that same story. I grew up building a business in the dish world.
Yep.
At the top of dish was some very successful guys that rode out the whole wave of DVR and TiVo and all that stuff, and made lots and lots of money. And in doing so, they had sacrificed a lot of things, like their relationships with their family, and gotten super close to one of them at the top. And he'll tell you, like, I prioritized all of this before my family, and now I don't have the family altogether. And if I could do one thing different, I would have got my priorities straight, because all of this success I had doesn't even matter compared to what I lost. You got to keep that in. And I almost made the same mistake.
Yeah.
I almost did the same thing. And so prioritize your relationships. Don't ever let them be worth more to you than the money that you can get or the success that you can have. And your relationships, I can't even tell you how many times, I mean, we're building a business right now that has been very successful, and the relationship was one that I started at Dish 20 years ago. She left for 10 years, and when the timing was right, she came back, and she wanted us to build with her, and it's been a very fruitful relationship, and that happens over and over and over again. And so I don't always get it right, but I do love my people. I love my relationships, but the relationships that matter most to me right now in this phase in life is, first, my wife and family, and second is God, and I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah.
I don't have it mastered, but things are going pretty good, and I hope that I can have the same success there as I have had in business, and that's really the one that I want to master, or being known for.
It's no joke. It's one of those things, like, you can have ultimate success, but if your family isn't there to share it with you at the end, really gotta question walking that path, man.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I want to kind of get your opinion on this. Not just in our industry, we represent a massive industry. We represent door to door, represent business of all natures, all walks of life. But relationships are interesting, and you already mentioned, when you get into them, you're looking to to love that person, to understand that person. I think a lot of times people are entering into business or relationships to see what they can get out of that person, see how much money they can get that person to invest, or to see how many deals that person can get for them. I think that both are necessary in business, right? Like you've definitely got to correlate with people that can help your business grow and become fruitful. But at the same time, there's a way to not be cutthroat and not be deceitful and not, put people in situations that only benefit you. I ask you this in specific because, look, as you're at the top, everything is a trickle down from you. All of these deals that are happening, in this atmosphere happen because of the relationships you create and the example you set. So how have you been able to continue to maintain being for the relationship as opposed to what you get out of it financially?
So going back to that first lesson of having the right people in your business, and then developing a relationship that lasts a long time with that individual. I'll give you a perfect example, is what I focus on and what matters. So there's a lot of people that can still build dish teams, but there's no one, in my opinion, more powerful than the two leaders that we have, which is Jared Danis, Grant Carlson, and then Nathaniel Olson.
Yep. Two of the best in the world.
Nathaniel Olson, one of the best leaders in the industry.
Class act all the way around.
He could go start and do anything he wanted on his own and be successful with it.
Yep.
So why does he choose to build a business with me? And why does Nathaniel park his camp in a business that I own?
Yep.
Goes back to the relationship before it even became business.
So true. It's a cool story. I love this.
Yeah. And he was the face of my gym, and we were cheering him on as an athlete, and he was a super elite athlete. And
I'll beat him in any workout, though.
Donnie thinks he's just as tough, but
I hope he hears that.
Captain of America.
That's true. That's true.
He not only is a beast, but he's one sexy animal.
Yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, he is, dude. Yeah, he is a monster. It is a super cool story because Jared, he tells me that he said that he was basically involved with you through the CrossFit gym for years and years and years. I mean, years and years. You sponsored him. You put him up. You did a bunch of different things.
He would come up to my house in between workouts.
Yeah.
I would fill my hot tub up with ice bags. And the dude would just sit in my hot tub for a while and we would chat. And it was nothing about money. It was nothing about anything other than me wanting to see Nathaniel succeed at the highest level. And that relationship of me being there when he was doing nothing for me financially is why now that I have a product that Nathaniel can sell, that he feels comfortable knowing Jeremy's not going to let me down.
No doubt.
I'm never going to backdoor him. I'm going to give him exactly what I say I'm going to give him.
No doubt. Yep.
And he can trust that. And when a guy can trust that, he can do a lot of amazing things. And then back to the fortunate, I don't deserve half the people that are in my life, but I got good dudes in my life that have trusted me to do some pretty amazing things.
Something that the best leaders in the world are really, really good at, man, is deflecting the spotlight, man. And you do it great, Jared. But I'll tell you do deserve a lot for that. It's funny. There's backstory with that with Nathaniel. I remember there's a little bit of a turbulent situation, a little bit of change of a product without getting into the backstory. But I remember, kind of him having conversations with me. He's a really, really good friend of mine and a partner of mine. Says, finding a good place to park accounts is precious. You know what I mean? Finding somewhere where there's trust is priceless. And we spoke a lot about you, and he mentioned, he's like, yo, this dude has put countless funds into me becoming a champion CrossFitter. He has never once tried to recruit me away from the organization that his father-in-law at the time, had owned. He's like, the dude has never once, tried to make it about money. And dude, that alone made it an absolute no-brainer for him. Awesome. And it's super cool, man. It was really cool to see. And in any case, I mentioned it before when we come into your office all the time. There's a million people in there who want to meet with Jeremy, and everybody's at one point rubbed shoulders with you at one point. So it's super cool to see. Jer, fast forward, you built Dish for a long time. Man, I was just gonna say, Dish is on auto, man. You've got that thing cranking like it's like it ain't no thing.
The solar industry.
Well, I was gonna say, tell us what are you doing now? Because look, one, you're a very, very, very shiny face in a relatively turbulent industry. You know what I mean? So talk to us. What are you doing?
So we started solar in 2023, which, if you know the space, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Worst year ever to start solar.
And that's debatable,
But
man.
the best.
I think it's
But the
debatable.
best.
I think it's debatable.
We had some tough times back in the early days, but it's been some tough times. And honestly, I think the challenge of that is what got me excited. I saw how broken it was and how challenging it is. I now understand a lot more what those challenges are and why there's so few companies that have really succeeded. You got a handful that are really doing it at a high level. I am at a point where if you look at my leadership team, if you come in and you look at the execs on the operations side and the execs on the sales side of the business, we are as powerful as we have ever been, and that's because 20 years into this, I do have a lot of relationships now that,
No doubt.
we're here to build something special together.
And have come together to do just that under your leadership. Yep.
Right. So there's a lot of things that are out of your control in solar, but there is a lot of things that are in your control in solar. Solar's harder. It's the hardest business of the 20 plus businesses that I've had.
Easily, right?
To navigate and to have success in. But it is doable, and it does take time, and it is coming together. And now I get to do it. Probably I'm having the most fun that I've had in business because I have several businesses that are having success outside of it that I don't have to pay attention to.
Yep.
And I brought all the relationships together with people I genuinely want to be with to build something great. It's taken us some time. We've had our lumps. It's something that definitely you have to have experience, and you have to be able to bring in talent outside of just my network that can navigate this solar space that has been navigating it for 15 years. And so
Yep.
we have a good combination of veterans in the space that can do some amazing things and veterans in the solar space that have come in now. And together, we want to be that transparent, good, same thing as we just talked about with Nathaniel, the company that you can trust to get you to the finish line. And I have more confidence than ever that we will be that company. But I will tell you, in solar, going back to the money and the greed, I think one of the things that has gotten companies in trouble is, as a solar company, I can take a lot of shortcuts to get to the money.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing that, you may put the customer and their experience at jeopardy. An example would be, I can skip some things and go get an install done.
Yep.
But with thousands and thousands of surveys that have been taken, a customer is way happier if you wait to install it to where you can turn the power on than if you just throw panels on the roof and then have to wait 60 days to turn the power on.
No
9 out
question.
of 10 customers, even if it takes 60 days, will be happy with you if you can install it and turn the power on. 9 out of 10 customers will be unhappy with you if you just slap the glass to get your money and then wait 60 days to turn their power on. And so it's a hard thing to balance with sales because it is a tough, challenging industry. I do think the real currency in solar is going to be speed.
Yeah.
And getting to install and PTO in a fast, efficient manner. And I think that's what our end goal is right now. Let's be transparent. Let's be trustworthy. But most importantly, let's figure out how to get fast
And good at it.
and good at it. Yeah. In the right way, without skipping things. And that's where it's been challenging as we have seen with some of our own guys, but it's really come full circle to where I now can see the solar industry for what it is, and I have a lot of confidence in our ability to get to the end, which is awesome.
Super. Again, we talk about it a lot. It's like 2023 was it a good time or a bad time to start a solar company? I'm going to tell you right now, man, I think, Jeremy, just from an outside perspective, the way that solar was gone about 5 years ago, trying to go about it that way in today's day and age are what will lock your doors, right? That's going to make things not work. I think adapting and understanding that this industry is ever changing and playing the game the way that it's supposed to be played today. And first and foremost, you mentioned it before, doing right by the customer, making sure that customer becomes a raving fan. And instead of talking bad about you, talks kindly of you, right? And maybe recommend you to a neighbor or to a friend or to a family member. But it's awesome to see the players that you've brought together at Aveyo. It's awesome to see, not just from a sales side, but from an operational side, things really start to move along. And again, a very turbulent industry, right? Like, there are moving parts all over the place. And so what is always true is that in the storm of pandemonium, a guiding, steady, calm hand is always necessary. And Jeremy, brother, that is you. Super, super cool to see that. Guys, that's about our time, man. We can keep rocking and rolling all day. But look, tune in. Tomorrow podcast, we'll be here again in a few weeks. But Jer, one of the best there are, my man. Thank you so much for your time, brother. This is awesome. We love you. We'll catch y'all on the flip. See y'all tomorrow.